Hello everyone and welcome again to my How To Education channel. As I promised you on Monday, here is the compilation of all of the weekend videos. After watching this video, don't forget to leave me your feedback. Fortunately for some, and unfortunately for many, it is the time of the year again, university applications. For the next upcoming months, students all around will be preparing to apply for the next academic phase of their lives. High school students will be preparing their university applications. University students might be preparing their master studies application, and so forth. One of the requirements that might bring a certain confusion is the motivation letter requirement. A motivation letter is the one or maximum 2 pages letter that universities ask you to write, explaining why you're the best fit for a position to their program, be it a bachelor program, a master program, or a doctorate program. I will show you now how I wrote my motivation letter to the programs that I'm applying for. Remember that there are many different templates of motivation letters. All what I'm doing is explaining what has worked for my case. When writing my motivation letter, I used the following structure: opening and introduction, academic experience, electives or civic courses, internship and voluntary experiences, work experiences, freelance work, and university work, conclusion and closing. Let's start with the opening and introduction. Since I did not know the name of the person reviewing my application, I started the letter with "to whom it may concern." In my case, I completed all of my university education in Lebanon, and my application is for a second master abroad. You can find below the format that I used. After finishing from opening and introduction, I moved on to the academic experiences. I divided my academic experiences section into 3 paragraphs, one for each program. The most recent, which was the graduate study, coming first, followed by my undergraduate and the emphasis, and ending with the minor pursuit during the undergraduate years. Nevertheless, this depends on each person individually. If you're entering university as an undergrad, 1 paragraph would be more than enough. Throughout my graduate program, I took 13 courses. So what I did when writing the letter was to mention 1 different skill that I acquired from each course, as for example, the Quantitative Methods in Business course tackled areas such as linear programming, transportation problems, network planning, queuing theory, regression analysis, and modeling techniques, which helped me to apply the concepts learned in class to real-life problems. After mentioning all your courses and skills, you can conclude the paragraph by giving 1 reason as to why these acquired skills will be a perfect match for the program that you're applying for, and most importantly, why the program that you're applying for is the perfect match to enhance your current skills. For the second paragraph, in which I wrote about my undergraduate degree, I followed the same procedure, but instead of writing about all the courses, I only chose a limited number of major courses to talk about. The paragraph about the minor was just a general statement naming the courses I took and mentioning in what way they would be ideal for the program that I was applying for. It is also important to mention in 1 separate paragraph some courses you took that might not be related to your major, but that were important for your personal growth as a human being, such as a civic engagement course or a business etiquette and protocol one. These courses are usually available even in high school. Universities nowadays don't only care about academic results like before, but about the difference that their prospective students will make to the community around them. Thus, it is very important to mention the personal experience and the maturity that you have gained from these courses. The next section is about any extracurricular voluntary experience or internships that you could possibly have had. Examples can include a Red Cross volunteering or a bank internship. These experiences are usually welcomed in a motivation letter because through them you can get a glimpse of an actual work environment and acquire certain managerial skills such as time management and organization. You can also observe the daily workflow of a company and witness the importance of being able to work well under pressure. Make sure to mention these newly acquired skills in your letter. A good alternative for those who did not have the opportunity to go through an internship could be to include a possible trip that he or she has made. That is because when traveling, you're able to interact with people from different cultures and to get a glimpse on their habits and behavior. You also have the opportunity to manage money conversions, to acknowledge trading skills, and to see certain business skills learned in university to be put to use in a real-life perspective. These experiences can be very interesting to your prospective program, especially in such a globalized world. A high school or university student trying to save money and to pay for his or her studies probably went through some sort of a work experience, be it an actual job, freelance work, or some sort of a university aid in the form of work. These can be shown in one paragraph or be divided into one small paragraph per work experience. This is how I concluded my motivation letter. I wrote, "Thank you in advance for your consideration, and I look forward to hearing from you." I skipped a line and wrote, "Sincerely yours." Skipped another line and wrote my name, my email, and my cell phone number. Make sure to use an appropriate font size so as everything you have to say can fit into one or maximum 2 pages. In my case, I was able to include everything in 1.5 pages. Fortunately for some, and unfortunately for many, it is that time of the year again, university applications. For the next upcoming months, high school students all around will be preparing to apply for the next academic phase of their lives, and with that, so many important decisions that need to be taken, as for example, which major to choose. Of course, this is not like a food recipe, which you follow the instructions step by step and magically reach the right result. That is, there is no magic formula to follow in order to choose the appropriate major. But what I can do is to give you my personal experience account on how I chose my university major, and I'm sure that this can help many people. So, let's start. First of all, I had to decide if it would be better to pursue my degree abroad or to stay in Lebanon. In my case, I decided to stay here in my home country. You might think that the decision of which country to go is not that important, but you have to consider the fact that sometimes some majors can be available in a certain country and not in another. After deciding that I wanted to stay here, even though I already had one university in mind, which in fact is the only university that I actually applied to, I still searched the website of other 3 universities. The point of these researches was to have a list of the majors offered by each. Since I had absolutely no idea about what I wanted to do, I decided to use these lists and work by elimination. That is, I would cross out the majors that I would never choose for sure, and then deal with what was left. This is the list of majors that were available in University 1, which is the one I actually graduated from. The majors that I crossed out are the ones I surely did not and would never want. The red ones are the ones I could possibly think about. These were education, math, psychology, translation, accounting, banking and finance, management, international business, economics, and hospitality and tourism or family business. I never wanted to apply for University 2, but I thought that I should check the possible majors so as to make a better decision. I used the same logic as before, and new possibilities appeared, such as advertising, public relations, early childhood education, and teaching English as a second language. Using the same logic as before, the new possibility that appeared from University number 3 was the Actuarial Sciences major. Lastly, no new possibilities appeared from University number 4, as they had all been considered before. After eliminating the majors that I surely would never want, I was left to choose between the following: math, actuarial sciences, psychology, translation, international business, economics, accounting or accounting infosystems, banking and finance, management, hospitality and tourism or family business, advertising, public relations, early childhood education, or teaching English as a second language. These majors were then divided into groups. Number 1, the business majors, which were accounting or accounting infosystems, banking and finance, management, international business, economics, hospitality and tourism, or family business. Number 2, math majors, which were math and actuarial sciences. Number 3, education majors, as in early childhood education, and teaching English as a second language. Number 4, advertising and public relations. Number 5, psychology. And number 6, translation. Now, instead of choosing between 30 plus majors, I had to choose between only 15, divided into 6 groups. What I did then was to thoroughly research each major. With that, I removed psychology from the list, since a good knowledge of biology is required, and biology is a subject I don't like. I also removed advertising and public relations, since the university that offered these majors was at a distance that I could not manage at that time. Before having to make the final decision about the major, I started working as a tutor. This made me realize that even though I worked very well in the education area, the education majors tackled full classroom teaching, which is not something I wanted. The reason why I considered translation as a major back then was because in Lebanon, they teach you a lot of languages, and I already spoke Portuguese. Thus, I considered that it would be a nice career path. Nevertheless, when maturing this idea, I felt that I wasn't being true to myself, and that even though the career prospects were really good, this was not what I wanted. At the end of it, I was only left with the business majors and the math majors. The business majors were accounting or accounting infosystems, banking and finance, management, international business, economics, hospitality and tourism, or family business. The math majors were math and actuarial sciences. My first final choice was a math major, as this was one of my favorite subjects at school. The reason why I use the expression first final choice is because I actually applied to it at the beginning of the summer vacation. Nevertheless, during the first year of university, I was still a freshman student, which means a non-major student that was not allowed to declare a major yet and needed to take general courses for a year. One of these courses was the Introduction to Business, and I really fell in love with the subject. Everything made so much sense to me, and it was a pleasure to study it. I didn't even feel that I was studying for an exam. In one of my conversations with this business professor, she told me that business and math walked side by side in most cases, and that I had a very valuable knowledge in math that couldn't go to waste. The solution we found was to choose an emphasis in business that had to do with math, and join both areas together with a major and a minor. Thus, I ended up majoring in business with emphasis in banking and finance and a minor in math. As time passed by, and with the progression of my studies, I saw that I really took the right decision. Of course, this is a subjective account of my experience, and what worked for me might not work for you. Nevertheless, it can still help many people. With the end of the school and university year just along the corner, many students need to run against the clock to finish all the requirements needed in order to be promoted to the next academic year or to the next academic phase of their lives, and to finish planning for what's coming next. One of these requirements is surely the SAT exam. Before moving on with discussing dates and registration procedures, let us first see what is the SAT exam. The SAT stands for Scholastic Aptitude Test. It is a standardized test, meaning that it is delivered and scored in the same way for all the students, whether they're in the US, in Lebanon, or anywhere else in the world. It is used for college admissions in the US and in most American universities across the world. Consists of 3 parts: the evidence-based reading and writing test, worth a maximum of 800, the math test, also worth a maximum of 800, and the optional essay, which is scored separately based on 3 different criteria: reading, analysis, and writing, each worth between 2 to 8 points. The whole SAT is worth 1,600, which is a sum of the evidence-based reading and writing test and the math. As mentioned before, the SAT is composed of 3 different sections, 2 of which are obligatory, and the essay, which is optional. The evidence-based reading and writing consists of 52 standard reading and multiple choice questions and 44 standard writing multiple choice questions. You have 65 minutes for the reading section and 35 minutes for the writing section. The math consists of 45 standard multiple choice questions and 13 grid-in questions. You have 2 sections for the math, a 25 minutes no calculator section and a 55 minutes section with the calculator. The essay is an evidence-based essay that takes 50 minutes. Before starting with the registration process, take a look at all of the upcoming SAT test dates, all the registration deadlines, and also the late registration and cancellation deadlines. In order to start your SAT registration, you will need to create a College Board account. In order to do that, first follow this link and then press Student. Once the page opens, fill out all the required information. What I did in my case was to only fill out the starred fields in order to save time. Once you have created your SAT account, click Continue and then press Upcoming SAT Dates and Deadlines. A table like the one in slide 34 will appear. Decide which SAT session you want to sit for and press Register. This link will take you to a page called My SAT Homepage. Press Register for the SAT and then get started. Note that if you're testing internationally, you will be taking the digital SAT. Students testing in the US will still take the paper SAT throughout 2023. You will then be taken to a page in which you have to confirm all your previously registered info before continuing. Don't forget to press Confirm before pressing Continue. The registration process has 4 steps. Step 1 consists of filling out more or less 10 pages of background info about yourself. Again, for the sake of time, I only filled out the required information, which saved me the trouble of completing about 8 out of the 10 pages. Step 2 is about selecting the test date and time. First of all, specify if you're testing in the US or outside, and then press Next. Choose the test date you want and again press Next. Select the country and press Find a Test Center and then Continue. Once you verify that your information is completely correct, press Continue again. In step 3, you will have to upload your photo. The photo should match your appearance on the test day, which means that it must be a recent one. Read all the guidelines before uploading your photo and again press Continue. For step 4, after confirming all the information for the last time, click on Make Payment. You can make the payment through PayPal or directly from a credit or debit card. This is the template you're gonna get before pressing Make Payment. In case you reside in Lebanon, for example, you will only be able to pay through a debit or credit card, since PayPal is not available in here. If you decide to complete your payment through a debit or credit card, your working screen will show the second image. Let's look at the template of a debit or credit card and identify the info they need. Bank, in this case, represents the type of card. The credit card number is 1234 5678 9012 3456. Since the expiry date is 5/21, it means that the expiry month is May and the expiry year is 2021. The security code is the CVC code. After adding your credit or debit card credentials and making sure that they're correct, submit your payment and click on Print your admission ticket. The picture aside shows a template of what your admission ticket will look like. Nowadays, being a university student or a university graduate is no easy task. Other than the pressure that comes with each respective role, the increased costs of education and the time it might take to find a job after graduation simply add to the burden. Throughout my university career, something that helped me to deal with all the financial pitfalls of a student's life was to become a tutor. At first, I started working for a tutoring institution, but with time, I ended up focusing on providing one-to-one private lessons. This job has surely helped me to not only be up to my financial responsibilities as a student, but also to get much higher grades in my classes, since while teaching other people, I was grasping content and learning as well. Of course, this is not like a food recipe, which you follow the instructions step by step and magically become the best tutor ever. That is to say, there is no magic formula to follow in order to become a tutor. But what I can do is to give you my personal experience account on how I dedicated myself to the tutoring field while at university, and I'm sure that this can help many of you. So let's start. First of all, there are some cases in which students end up being a bit reluctant about asking for help. Thus, they might only call for a tutor when the situation becomes beyond critical. Your role as a tutor in this case is to show a positive attitude, always reassuring the student that it is okay to ask for help and that together you will do your best to find a solution to his or her problem, no matter how big it is. Please note that showing a positive attitude is completely different from not saying the truth or giving false hope. A tutor should always clarify the student's situation, no matter how hard it is. What I mean is to let the students realize that when working together and doing your best, even the biggest problem can become at least smaller. In addition to showing a positive attitude, it is also very important to train yourself to see beyond your prejudgments. Sometimes when a student is not understanding the material and sees that his or her questions seem to be accumulating after every class, he or she might lose interest in the class altogether and start to sleep during the explanations, get dispersed, or even misbehave. Due to these kind of behaviors, the student might be labeled as lazy or hard to deal with by people around them. Don't even listen to this. Instead, let him or her tell you about him or herself. It is hard to set up a teaching schedule or a studying plan without first assessing your students' strengths and weaknesses. This is important so as to know how much time to allocate for each topic without giving a lot of time to an easy task and not enough time for a difficult one. The best way to assess a student's knowledge is through the implementation of a diagnostic test. A very common approach taken by the majority of people is to only focus on studying for a test a few days or maximum 1 week beforehand. If you ask me, I genuinely understand the logic behind this behavior. It is much easier to memorize something and then do the exam directly after. The problem behind this approach is that by keeping everything to the last minute, the chances of real learning taking place are almost null. One will tend to forget everything minutes after the exam is over. In addition, learning is cumulative. That is, it will be extremely hard to learn next year's material without knowing this year's material. At the beginning of the tutoring process, Tutors might set up a very unrealistic schedule with about 10 subjects to study in a day, tons of exercises, 10,000 things to do, thousands of pages to write, and a million repetitions. However, this is not always the best way to tackle the situation. How about making a continuous effort and starting to study earlier than everybody else? This way, instead of going over 10 different subjects and a million pages to read, one subject and a few pages per day would suffice. A factor that demotivates many students is their inability to see the relevance of the material that they learn at school to their everyday lives. By providing examples of everyday situations in which they can apply the information acquired at school or university, students will understand the significance of studying and be more willing to make the efforts needed. How about telling them that without some notions of applied math, a person's heartbeat cannot be measured and some life-saving surgeries cannot be performed? Of course, a studying plan is extremely important for the reasons I mentioned before. Nevertheless, a schedule might not always work as planned for a variety of reasons. Thus, it is crucial for the tutor to always keep an open mind and be flexible and willing to make adjustments to the original plan as it deems necessary. Rushing a student just to finish the plan is never a good idea, as he or she might need more time to fully understand the required concepts. Lastly, even though you might think that parents, teachers, and home tutors have different roles in the lives of students, it is important to always keep the lines of communication open with them. That is to say, something wrong at home or at school, for example, might definitely play a negative role in all other areas of a student's life. Even though unknown to many, the GRE is a rather important exam for admission to many of the graduate programs available worldwide. The GRE can be applied as a computer-based exam or as a paper-based one. It consists of a standardized exam, testing a student's skill in the areas of verbal reasoning, quantitative reasoning, and critical thinking and analytical writing skills. Let's take a look at each section now and see how to prepare for it. First of all, as soon as you open your exam booklet or log into the computer, you will undergo the critical thinking and analytical writing skills section. This part of the exam consists of only one section, Section 1, with 2 written questions. The first written question is the Analyze an Issue question. You will be allocated 30 minutes to answer the first question. It is followed by the second written question, which is the Analyze an Argument question. You will be allocated 30 minutes to answer the second question. This whole section is worth a separate score of 6 points. The Analyze an Issue first question starts with a given opinion statement or a problem. Your task will be to respond to it. That is, your task will be to explain to what extent you agree or disagree with the statement, or to what extent you agree or disagree that the issue is really a problem to be solved. You cannot simply say, I agree or I disagree. Instead, you have to list all the reasons why you agree or disagree and answer the possible arguments that people might use in order to contradict your point of view. The Analyze an Argument second question requires a different procedure. For this case, the argument is already given to you, and your job will not be to agree or disagree with it. Instead, you have to analyze how well this argument was presented. That is, let's say a student disagrees with the point of view presented in the argument. Nevertheless, this argument listed all the possible reasons as to why the author has this opinion. In addition, it answered the reader's possible objections and focused on facts rather than emotions. Thus, regardless of his or her opinion, the student will have to say that the argument was well developed. If, on the other hand, a student agrees with the argument itself, but this argument did not list all the possible reasons as to why the author has this opinion, did not answer the reader's possible objections, and focused on emotions rather than facts, the student will then have to say that the argument was not properly developed, regardless of his or her personal opinion. Some may argue that studying for the critical thinking and analytical writing skills section is not easy, since you don't get to see the opinion statement, problem statement, or argument beforehand. The path you should follow in this case is to solve previous GRE sample exams, usually found online. You could also find general argumentative topics and try to develop essays based on them. Lastly, reading argumentative essays presented by other people and analyzing their arguments is also a great idea. Remember to always time your practices to make sure that you can write within the 30 minutes allocated. After section 1, you will have to complete sections 2 till 6. 2 of these sections will be of verbal reasoning, and 2 of these will be of quantitative reasoning. One of these will be an unscored section of either verbal reasoning or quantitative reasoning. The purpose of the unscored section is to test new questions for the upcoming GRE examinations. Note that you have to do your best in all sections, since there is no way to know which one is the unscored one. Also note that sections 2 till 6 can come in absolutely any order, which will only be revealed to you during the exam session. The 2 sections of verbal reasoning consist of 3 types of questions: reading comprehension, text completion, and sentence equivalence. You will have 30 minutes to answer the 20 questions available in each of these sections. That is, 40 questions of verbal reasoning in a total of 60 minutes. The highest score you can get in the verbal reasoning section is 170 points. The best way to start preparing for these 2 sections is to download the GRE vocab list and try to grasp as many words as possible from it. This list can be found either online or in any practice book. The reason why you should first start preparing through the vocab is due to the fact that all types of questions that you will encounter will be much easier to solve if you have a proper background in vocab. That is, the reading comprehension questions tackle your ability to interpret a given passage and answer some questions. Most of the words present in the text are from the vocab lists and are crucial to the understanding of the passage. The text completion questions require you to fill in the blanks of a given text with the vocab words. Lastly, the sentence equivalence questions test your ability to identify which vocab words are synonyms to each other by asking you to choose 2 words from a list of words that complete the sentence by giving it the same meaning. Therefore, It is clear that by thoroughly studying only the vocab list, you're able to solve the whole 2 sections of the GRE without much trouble. Nevertheless, since the words are not that easy to be grasped, it is always a good idea to solve sample and previous GRE exams and other practice questions so as to be sure that you're able to implement your vocab knowledge when answering the questions. Lastly, the 2 sections of quantitative reasoning consist of the following types of questions: quantitative comparison questions, multiple choice questions, and numeric entry questions. This portion of the exam tackles areas such as arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data analysis. You will have 35 minutes to answer the 20 questions available in each of these sections. That is, 40 questions of quantitative reasoning in total for 70 minutes. The highest score you can get in the quantitative reasoning section of the GRE is also 170 points. Thus, the GRE has a total score of 340 points plus a separate score of 6 points for the critical thinking and analytical writing skills. Something that worked for me when I was preparing for this part of the GRE is to search for exercises specific to each area being tackled. That is, we already know that this part of the exam covers the areas of arithmetic, algebra, geometry, and data analysis. So what I did was to search for the following entries: arithmetic exercises for GRE, algebra exercises for GRE, geometry exercises for GRE, and data analysis exercises for GRE. This way, I was able to find official GRE sample questions and was able to pinpoint my strengths and weaknesses since I was tackling each concept by itself. It is important to always time the practices, since there is no point in knowing everything if you cannot finish your exam on time. I am 100% sure that if you have reached the end of this compilation, it is definitely because the content is helpful to you somehow. So don't forget to give your friends and acquaintances the opportunity to have access to these videos by liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. We will be continuing with more weekend content soon, but before that I will make one more economics video and then make a compilation of all of the economics videos. Thank you so much.